Well, Senator Lindsey Graham telling reporters this morning President Trump is likely to replace the attorney general sooner rather than later. So let's dive deeper. The Republican senator from South Carolina who sits on the Senate Judiciary Committee joins us now. Senator, do you know anything we don't? You talk with the president a lot. You guys play golf. Is he thinking about a new AG?
Well, I don't have any direct evidence of this, but you don't have to be Dr. Phil to understand that the president and the attorney general do not have a good working relationship. Every president deserves an attorney general they have confidence in. As to Jeff Sessions, I've never met a finer man. He was a great senator. He's a great lawyer. I think he's been a good attorney general. But this is not working, so I hope the relationship gets better. If it doesn't, I would imagine the president is going to look for a new attorney general because what's going on is unsustainable. I'm not blaming anybody. I love Jeff Sessions. But from my point of view, the country is not being well served with this much friction.
All right. What about when you said last year there would be, quote, holy hell to pay if Sessions was fired? You said that the president's efforts to marginalize and humiliate him were not going over well in the Senate.
Well, when Jeff recused himself, which I think he should have, any lawyer would have done what Jeff Sessions did. He was part of the campaign. You can't oversee an investigation of the campaign you were a part of, so he had to recuse himself.
Why doesn't the president get that?
I don't know. The president's not a lawyer. He's frustrated. He thinks this is a witch hunt. The bottom line here is Jeff did the right thing legally, but Mueller is now very deep into his investigation. This conflict is far beyond Mueller and recusal. There's just not a good, healthy working relationship, from what I can tell. And for the good of the nation, I think we need an attorney general that has the confidence of the president. And I'm not blaming Jeff Sessions. There is no finer man. But at the end of the day, there are plenty of conservative judges and lawyers that I think could do this job, that we can get somebody confirmed. But if he does replace Jeff Sessions, the burden will be on the president to pick a highly qualified, somebody who believes in the rule of law, give Mueller the space he needs to finish his investigation. But I say this with a heavy heart because I was a big proponent of Jeff Sessions. And it seems to me the relationship is unsustainable.
All right, here is what GOP Senator Ben Sasse had to say about this today.
The idea that Jeff Sessions might be fired because he's not a political hack is a very, very bad idea. It's a bad idea for the Constitution. It's a bad idea for public trust. It's a bad idea for the Department of Justice. And frankly, it's a really bad idea for the President of the United States. And I've communicated that message to my colleagues today, and I've communicated that message to the President.
He also said that it's hard for him to envision a scenario when he is voting for someone other than Jeff Sessions to be the attorney general if it's based on this idea that he won't carry out what the president wants him to do.
All I can say is that what Senator Sasse is saying, that Donald Trump is stuck with Jeff Sessions forever because Senator Sasse doesn't believe he should be replaced. I believe every president has a right to their cabinet. These are not lifetime appointments. You serve at the pleasure of the president. So I find it, quite frankly, wrong for the Senate to reject the idea that Donald Trump can't replace his attorney general, but everybody else can.
You're saying before the midterms, though, absolutely no way. I mean, you've got a lot to do.
We don't have enough time. We've got Kavanaugh. We've got an election coming up. And I say this loving Jeff Sessions, but for the country's sake, and really, I think for the Department of Justice's sake, we need somebody that can have the trust of the president. So this relationship's either going to get better or it's going to result in a new face and a new voice at the Department of Justice.
All right. I want to read something quickly from Politico and let you respond. Graham's comments appeared to be an unprompted invitation to the president to take action if he wishes, a wink and a nod gesture that he has a friend in the Senate. You guys are friends. If Grassley chooses to go to the Senate Finance Committee after the election, Graham would become Judiciary Committee chairman. Graham's also up for re-election in 2020, and being close to Trump would help stave off a primary challenge.
Here's what I would say about that. If Senator Grassley moves to the Finance Committee, I will become chairman under the traditions of the Senate. I hope he stays because I think he's been a great chairman. What am I doing? I am saying on national television the obvious. Jeff Sessions and Donald Trump do not enjoy a healthy relationship, and I'm not blaming Jeff Sessions. I think he's highly ethical. I think he's very competent, but this is not working. And at the end of the day, the people in the Department of Justice, the president deserves an attorney general that has his competence. And I'm not suggesting that he fired Jeff Sessions because he's not a political hack. I'm suggesting if he can't work with Jeff Sessions, he has the right to pick somebody who is competent, and the burden will be on the president to pick somebody who has competence.
Well, the next next time you guys play golf, which is probably soon, let us know if he has any names. Give us a list.
We'll see what he does. I hate it came to this, but it's pretty obvious to me something's got to give.
All right, Senator, always great to have you with us. Thanks for coming in tonight.
Jeff Sessions never took control of the Justice Department. He took the job, and then he said, I'm going to recuse myself. I said, what kind of a man is this? Even my enemies say that Jeff Sessions should have told you that he was going to recuse himself. The only reason I gave him the job, because I felt loyalty. He was an original supporter.
Jeff Sessions did the right thing to recuse himself. And for the president to say otherwise just is simply wrong.
Can you imagine the backlash that would have occurred if Jeff Sessions would not have recused himself in this particular case?
Well, that was from the interview with Fox this morning, actually taped yesterday, aired this morning. The president saying that about Jeff Sessions. Obviously, he's tweeted a number of things about his attorney general. Today, the attorney general released a statement before going to the White House to sit with President Trump. I took control of the Department of Justice the day I was sworn in, which is why we've had unprecedented success at effectuating the president's agenda, one that projects the safety and security and rights of the American people, reduces violent crime, enforces our immigration laws, promotes economic growth, and advances religious liberty. While I am Attorney General, the actions of the Department of Justice will not be improperly influenced by political considerations. I demand the highest standards, and where they are not met, I take action. We asked the Attorney General to come on tonight. He said he may come on soon. Let's bring in our panel. Molly Hemingway, Senior Editor at The Federalist, Amy Walter, National Editor for the Cook Political Report, and Katie Pavlich, News Editor at townhall.com. Okay, Molly, what do you make of all this?
Well, it's an interesting conversation. I thought that Jeff Sessions' response was actually kind of disconcerting. He claims that he has control over the department, and he suggests that there has been no abuse of prosecutorial discretion. At the very least, both of those things are objectively debatable, and to ignore the concerns that are out there. I mean, he himself would say he recused himself from this probe. From anything dealing with the Trump campaign, anything dealing with the Hillary Clinton campaign, when it comes to concerns about abuse of prosecutorial discretion, it is those two probes that people are talking about. How the Department of Justice handles political investigations is very much something that people are worried about, and to have people in leadership just kind of dismiss it as crazy talk is actually alarming for those people who do care about these things.
The president at any time could fire Jeff Sessions.
Of course.
He hasn't.
And to the point Molly raises, the thing, though, that the president was the most focused on with Jeff Sessions wasn't necessarily about the prosecution of crimes outside and whether there were problems within the Justice Department. The word he was focused on was loyalty, and it was much more about what Jeff Sessions is doing for him or not doing for him that he was the most concerned with. And I think this raises the bigger, brighter question of why or when the president will decide to tell Jeff Sessions that it's time to go. We're hearing some back and forth on Capitol Hill, some pushback from senators, as you saw in that piece, but also some talk about the fact that maybe what he'll do is decide to do it after the midterm elections. Do not make this a flashpoint for Democrats going into a midterm election, but wait until afterwards and then do what you want to do.
Which is what Lindsey Graham said today. It's very possible that after the midterms it might happen. And Bloomberg had a story today, asked about a possible replacement for Sessions. Senator Grassley took a very different position from a year ago when he warned the White House he didn't have time to do another confirmation hearing that year. Quote, I do have time for hearings on nominees that the president might send up here that I didn't have last year, Grassley of Iowa said Thursday. Grassley has clashed with Sessions this year because of the Attorney General's intense opposition to Grassley's efforts to pass a criminal justice overhaul. And Dana Perino said that she talked to somebody that said all of this is about something else, which is to push Sessions into signing off on criminal justice reform.
Right. And it may be. I mean, Jared Kushner is ramping up the criminal justice reform. The president has been in multiple meetings this year about that very issue. It might come to a point that has nothing to do with actually Russia and more to do with moving the agenda forward in the White House, which is interesting why Jeff Sessions focused on being loyal to the president's agenda outside of recusing himself. You notice in the statement he talks about illegal immigration, violent crime, which are also topics that the president talks about. But moving forward at this very moment, Jeff Sessions has the upper hand. He knows that the president is having trouble getting Brett Kavanaugh confirmed, that the battle lines are drawn. The left is going to do
if it's trouble yet.
Well, the left is being very, very vocal, this week, saying that, because of the president's new woes with Cohen and Manafort, that they maybe should delay these. The confirmation hearings are being very loud about this, and he's seeing that battle play out, knowing that's going to be very difficult at a time when things are so polarized on Capitol Hill to get a new attorney general confirmed. Now, the Sessions days are limited. The president has attacked him multiple times this year, so we'll see when that happens. But it's certainly not going to happen right now, and it certainly won't happen before the midterm elections.
I want to talk about another thing, and this is a story that we've focused on Cohen, we focused on Lanny Davis and what he did a media roundabout. There was a story that Cohen was going to say to Mueller and his investigators that President Trump, candidate Trump, knew about the Trump Tower meeting beforehand, and that he had all these details, and a competing network had all of this really detailed information from sources. And everybody went crazy with that story. I mean, it was all over the place. Lanny Davis said yesterday in a series of interviews that wasn't picked up anyplace that Cohen didn't say that. He was not the source. It never happened. It was painful. We were not the source. We could not confirm. We could not correct. We had to be silent because of the sensitivity needed in the middle of a criminal investigation. Testified that he didn't know whether Trump knew about the Trump Tower. He also testified that the stuff in the dossier about Cohen is absolutely false, but nobody picked up that part of the story yesterday.
This is why it is so frustrating to see so many stories over the last year and a half sourced anonymously and no accountability when each and every one of those stories turns out, not each and every one, so many of those stories turn out not to be true. You have not seen a correction on the other network or any of the publications that ran with the story claiming that Cohen would speak totally against what his sworn testimony was and say that there was something nefarious about the Trump Tower meeting. You saw very little coverage of Cohen's attorney saying that not anything in the dossier about Cohen was true. And this is contrary to what you've seen when dossier claims are put forward. The dossier, of course, is the entire reason why we've had so much hysteria related to Russia and treasonous collusion. It is what fed the fire leading to a special counsel. It is what people are very frustrated about with how the Department of Justice chooses to handle one political investigation versus another. And this is a very serious concern that the media are not. The media have a role here. They have a role to hold people accountable and hold people and speak truth to power. When the power is all that strength of the Department of Justice, it's just as important as when it is Donald Trump, and they're failing here.
Not to take away from what we're going to learn and what we've seen develop and what's happening, but the fact that that wasn't even talked about in all of those Lanny Davis interviews is really quite something. If you look at the original report and what was said and how it was picked up.
Well, and you have to question what do we ultimately not know? I mean, this is where we every time when we have these discussions about any part of the Mueller investigation, it always comes back to this, which is we really don't know what we don't know. There's one person who has a lot of information. His name's Robert Mueller. That's the only person that has a lot of that information.
That has been said to people for so long, and I think it's a really frustrating thing to say. You can go wild with anonymous accusations. You can undermine a presidency. You can sideline the attorney general. You can get people fired. You can destroy people's careers. And people keep saying, well, we don't know what we don't know. At some point, there needs to be accountability here.
Right.
And that is something that the media
can help
with.
I think would be great, too, is if on the Capitol Hill, Republicans said, you know what we should do? We should have an investigation into these Michael Cohen accusations. We should have an investigation into what did he said something to us. Is that true?
Well,
is it not true?
Well,
they went back
we're going to
and
move
they
on because we've got another topic. But
yes, somebody could have lied.
No,
they are going to call, or they're saying they're going to call Cohen back up to Capitol Hill.
I doubt that.
We shall see.
All right, joining us now with more to reaction to our opening monologue, civil and criminal defense attorney David Schoen, former U.S. attorney for the District of Columbia, Joe diGenova. Joe, you heard my opening monologue. You also heard about follow the money. But let me go to the issue of Sessions. Clearly, the president feels betrayed that Sessions recused himself, didn't give him a heads up that he was going to do this, which is a big deal. And clearly, Sessions, based on his comments today, doesn't like the president. If the president fires him, though, he's in a box. Everybody's going to, I can hear it now, Saturday Night Massacre analogies all over the place. So the president's in a spot. He doesn't have an attorney general, never had an attorney general. The biggest abuse of power case, nothing happens on one side, but it only happens about taxi cab medallions and, bank loan applications.
Right. Well, the president of the United States was and is entitled to a fully engaged attorney general. He has never had that. Jeff Sessions made a terrible mistake. Besides accepting the job, knowing he would have to recuse himself in the single most important matter. As soon as he became Attorney General, Jeff Sessions should have had a major speech indicating what he thought about the way the Hillary Clinton case was handled and say that he was going to appoint a special counsel to investigate that case and to investigate the conduct of the people at senior levels of the FBI and the Department of Justice.
He should do it today. He should do it. Asked about FISA and Hillary.
He should do it today. And here's the problem. Jeff Sessions has no command presence. He doesn't understand the job that he has. He never has. It is very regrettable. But after the next election, Jeff should give the president the courtesy of a resignation. Because here's why, Sean. Jeff Sessions has told people that he doesn't believe that people at the Department of Justice are capable of the kinds of things that they are being accused of.
Comey,
he simply
McCabe,
refuses.
Strzok, Page, read. All you got to do is read.
Sean, he is blind. Jeff Sessions is blind, and he's surrounded by Rod Rosenstein, who agrees with him, and an FBI director in Chris Wray, who is an empty suit, who, by the way, has never said a nasty word about all of the people that were at the head of the FBI before him. He is so out of his league as FBI director. And so what is the president presented with? 3 people who don't know how to do their jobs. Sessions, Rosenstein, and Wray.
Him, it becomes, as I said,
he can't. Jeff Sessions has to be a man and resign after the election.
Listen, the president has the Article 2 authority to do exactly that. This is a person who serves at his will.
And the political fallout.
You're right, and he's being counseled on the political fallout, undoubtedly. But this president has to stop being reactive and concerned about those things once and for all. He was elected to be a man of action. He was elected to serve his constituency, which is at least half of the country. He needs action in this position.
You see,
he does.
You see where we are now. I mean, these people have wanted to impeach him. We saw what they tried to do to prevent him from winning.
Right.
Then he won anyway.
Right.
And then they still are going after him. They never stop going after him. The election in the minds of the deep state never stops.
But that's just the point. They're going to continue that no matter what he does or if he does nothing. That's an effort to overturn the election results through other means.
Why don't we do it through the election process?
Exactly. They can't do it through the ballot box.
Look, Joe, I'm a capitalist. I don't care that people make money. And frankly, if you are the FBI director, that experience is worth money in the private sector. I want to be very clear. I don't know if anything nefarious has gone on. Why did I not know until I read this book? $36 million, and we don't know the salary of 4 of the 5 years.
Because James Comey and Bob Mueller and people like Chris Wray do one thing very well. They hide their bad faults. And Comey and Mueller are so close, they're like they came out of the same womb. This is so outrageous about the conflicts of interest that exist with Mueller. He never should have been appointed special counsel. Rosenstein knew that. He knew about all those conflicts, and yet he did it anyway. He did it because
Comey got the guy hired. He worked for Lockheed Martin. Comey's the FBI director. All this money
Couldn't agree with you more. Couldn't agree with you more. These are politically corrupt people. The conflicts are outrageous. And as I said, after the next election, Jeff Sessions should resign and make way for a real attorney general who
need a special counsel, and this is part of that same pattern, by the way, of these folks out of office supporting each other. That's why you heard so many former officials screaming when Brennan had his security clearance taken away, when clearly it had to be taken away. It's an old boys network, and that's what President Trump threatens.
All right, thank you both.